You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week, as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents, along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Speaker. My name is Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And you know what? It's time to bring in the rest of the team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how goes it this week?
Oh, it's going fantastic. How's it going for you, Miranda?
It is going well. I am so excited to be doing this week's podcast edition with you guys. We have a lot to cover. And we can't do that without the third member of this team, and that's who?
Who?
It is the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
Me. Hey, how we doing?
We're doing very, very well, yes. As I mentioned earlier, a pretty packed show like we always do. You know, business is picking up, and that includes all of the content that we cover on the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. But let's kick off on a lighter note. There was some big birthdays this week in the world of Lucha Libre. First off, I'd like to say acquaintance of the show, someone that we've interviewed before, WWE superstar Lince Dorado. His birthday was earlier this week. And lots of love to him on social media. He's gotten some really fun TikTok videos as of late as well. And just someone that whenever I see him, I just light up because of his attitude and positivity and just continuing to do his best within the WWE and just an amazing, amazing wrestler, luchador, role model.
Yeah, absolutely.
He may only be an acquaintance of the show, but I'll say it now. You're welcome to be a friend of the show. Come back.
Yes.
Come back. We love you here.
I say acquaintance.
We offer you our friendship.
Yes. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I just want to say, he'd be like, what? Like, I only been on your show once. How am I a friend of the show? No, I get it. We're an acquaintance. But, we're just avid followers of Lince's career. We, do our best to follow what he does. Him and Grand Metalik every week on WWE shows. So just if you're not following Lince on social media, do yourself a favor and follow Lince Dorado because you'll thank yourself. You absolutely will.
He really does have something for everybody, too. So, yeah.
Also, someone's birthday this week, Scarlett Bordeaux from NXT. And really, she's continuing, the partnership between her and Karrion Kross has been a perfect fit. And I've loved her role as his manager. I think she's found a great fit in NXT. And yeah, it's a love story with some an interesting dynamic, but you just root for them. You just root for them, those young kids.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. She brings a lot to the table in that too, because she helped design that iconic entrance and sings that iconic song for his NXT entrance. So they are a full partnership, and she's really one of the most creative people I've run into in the wrestling business.
Her look has evolved so much in NXT as well. I love how she's been able to play with her clothing, her makeup, her hair. I mean, she's really taken it to the next level. And I hope that's something that they can continue doing every week, because it plays perfectly into, their dynamic, her character and his character. So it's really one of the most creative and unique managerial roles in wrestling. But also just one of the most unique looks in all of wrestling.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And also this week, Mass Republic's own Ruben Zamora's birthday.
Yeah.
Was this week as well. So shout out to Ruben. And he's a busy man running Mass Republic and such, and all of the projects and things that he's doing. But from the Lucha Central Weekly podcast to you, Ruben, feliz cumpleaños, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man. He said he wants Steph to build a new port, so
Yes. I mean, inexpensive now, man. You're not going to be seeing as many hardcore matches. At least, well, you are, but they're all going to be, light tubes and chairs. No wood. Yeah. Wood's
no
expensive
2x4s.
Now. No 2x4s.
No wooden panels. None of it. Yeah.
So yes, shout out to Ruben if you'd like to help him in, his building of a new porch. PayPal him, buy some Mass Republic merch.
Yeah.
All of the above. All of the above. So happy birthday to all this week. Feliz cumpleaños. It's always great to celebrate birthdays. But let's jump into this week's news as we always do with the road back to shows with Brendan.
Well, you said we had stuff, and boy do we have stuff, because Mexico City went to yellow. So did Puebla, which is the home of the other arena. But Mexico City is kind of the big buzz one, because that means that CMLL and AAA can officially have fans at shows. And CMLL did not waste any time doing that. Practically the day of, they announced they were going to have tickets available for a Friday show it was 5/21. They were allowed to have 500 tickets. They sold out almost instantly. And so now the speculation is that there is going to be fans available at the next iPay-per-view, and they might get back to their regular Friday arena shows, which would be kind of nice little return. But we're back to this situation now where CMLL and AAA were the only ones that really had to be good. So a lot of these indie groups that I was talking about, or wasn't talking about before, I might start covering again in the indie roundup, because it's now legal for them to have fans, although they're probably going to have more than they're supposed to anyway. So, but I'm not going to sit there and count them individual fans.
It'd be hard to do. But that's, big for Mexico City to finally be yellow.
Yeah. And they seem really, the government and the promotion seem really eager to have that step and kind of stay there. So hopefully we don't have a big old slide, but I'm a little more confident that we'll stay this way this one. In less good news, I'm going to just jump right into I like to put this not as fun stuff in the middle here. Legends of Lucha Libre star Cassandro had a hospital stay. He had to have an embolism removed from his brain. They haven't given a lot of details other than he's doing good and is expected to make a full recovery. So, we wish him very well. We've talked many times about how Cassandra was kind of an inspiration to a lot of people, and it would just be a shame for him even to have to retire if that was the kind of thing that was going forward. So hopefully a speedy and full recovery. Also, and not great news, Passion Crystal and Jesse Ventura, who operate out of the North area primarily, have gone to the press saying they were verbally and physically abused in an Uber car. They do believe it is related to their position as kind of exotico wrestlers that are a little more, we all know exoticos are much bigger on presentation. So that part of the incident has been streamed. I did not choose to watch it myself because I tend to get really angry when I see that sort of thing. But they are currently in a press campaign to try and get Uber to take action against the driver. Currently, the Uber is actually taking action against the two wrestlers. So they're trying for a little bit of a he said, she said, he said, she said, they said sort of deal. I will hopefully have more details on this as things come up, but it's just kind of a sticky and unfortunate situation all the way around. And then Federation Wrestling has been doing more interesting things for bringing eyes to the show and kind of keeping people interested. The group, Dusty, do you remember the name off the top of your head that of Diamante Azul and Puma King, Impresa, I believe?
La Empresa.
Yeah. Empresa, yeah. They showed up at the IWRG event. Diamante Azul lost during the tournament, and Puma King was acting extra heelish, but they were there as the faction. Diamante Azul was attempting to win a shot at the IWRG title so that they could bring gold into the faction. That was, I don't know if it was explicitly stated, but it was heavily implied. Again, this was pre-Yellow, so I that's the closest I'm coming to results for them this week. But because of that, we will be definitely looking closer at IWRG in the Indie Roundup to come. That's the road back to shows. I'm gonna switch now. See, this was my transition piece. See what I did there? To the Indie Roundup. But
we're
since
professionals around here.
Speaking of professionalism and the Indie Roundup, I just would like to say hello to Lucha blogger Cubs fan, who I don't know.
You go for it. Go for it, Brenda. Go.
I don't know if he actually listens to the show or not. But,
apparently. I'm sorry. I'm just starting the pot. I'm sorry. That's just the Puerto Rican in me starting stuff.
He had a segment this week on the blog that he also referred to as the Indie Roundup, and he very well may have done that years ago for all I know. But I just found it cute, and I just wanted to say hi if you're listening, Cubs, because that was kind of fun. But really what I've got for Indie Roundup is there was an event that happened this weekend that a certain person on this show was at and probably would like to talk about herself.
Yes. From what you remember, hopefully on last week's show, I did a plug for Future Stars of Wrestling based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. I had an event called Psycho de Mayo, which featured Psycho Clown and Sam Adonis. Again, these men have been wrestling up and down, the West Coast in Mexico, and they main evented the show. I had the honor of being able to announce them as well in Espanol, which was a huge honor to do that. And it was just an electric energy in the arena. And the match itself was one of the most exciting I mean, it was the most exciting match out of the entire card, but for a lot of fans in attendance, and even wrestlers, promoters, was one of the best matches of the year within Future Stars of Wrestling. So, and it involved all the gimmicks, of course, with tables, or actually doors that were used as tables. Maybe that's how you work around it. I don't know, but wood is not cheap, as we
Doors
talked
cost
about.
less. They cost way less.
And then, use of some fire almost in there. So it was just a crazy match by any means. Of course, anything that you see Psycho Clown and Sam Adonis in, is you just absolutely expect it for it to go crazy. Psycho Clown came out as the winner, of course. So still through all of that, he was able to persevere with the win. And if you want to watch the match, it is available for replay through the FSW network, $6.99 a month, which includes the replay of this, plus access to previous events and shows, which includes previous pay-per-views, exclusive content, and things like that. So $6.99, you can watch that match, the entire show, and much, much more. But it was just a crazy match, a fantastic show, and just an honor just to be in the presence of those two luchadors, and absolutely just worth everything to watch them in the ring.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the energy because it really felt like they were still going. I mean, they've been wrestling each other a lot of places, but it's felt like they were still going from this feud. Like there was just constant. It wasn't just I want to win. I need to beat you energy, and I really love that. And the insertion of a manager for Sam this time, who was the one that did the crazy fireball spot.
Yes, MK. That, anyone who knows the MK Bandit, he's a manager out here on the West Coast. He manages Sam all throughout the United States, and so if anyone knows the MK Bandit, that doesn't surprise you. He does anything to have his clients win, and I mean anything. He also took a brutal chair shot to the head as well.
Is it bad? Brutal. I'm less surprised by that chair shot than I was by the fireball.
No. And it was a proper, chair shot. There was a pretty big bump on his head, afterward. But at the same time, that's what you get, really, when you get yourself involved. You cross that line as a manager, especially in the world of Lucha Libre, nothing's off the table. So.
Yeah. Nobody's safe in a ring. I mean, Psycho Clown proved that too when he does his strap spot, because even the ref got a whipping at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes. Anything went. Literally anything went. So doors, fireball spots, chair spots, straps, all of that happened within this match.
Yeah, it was great fun. It is well worth the $6.99, even if that's the only thing you've got, but they've got so many good things that you can watch on that network. There's more lucha there. I didn't write my list down, but there's a number of, lucha related stars that have come through FSW. There's some bigger names like your Psycho Clowns, and some names that you'll now see as kind of up and coming. You've got a whole 2-hour show dedicated to Hammerstone on this network, and Hammerstone, as I mentioned in the Zenshi interview, has said he loves to wrestle luchadors. So,
Hammerstone will be wrestling at a lucha event in Phoenix this weekend as well.
There we go.
Boss Lucha Libre. It's going to be an open show. I unfortunately forget exactly where it's going to be held, but it's actually going to be free. So anyone who is interested in watching Hammerstone, he is going to be at Wrestling for Lucha Libre promotion this Saturday. Summerfest Lucha. It's going to be hosted by Lucha Libre Voz, and that's going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. 1602 Roosevelt Street is going to be part of a larger summer celebration. And it's just, it's going to be a very cool Lucha Libre event that is free to the community, and it will feature Hammerstone. So just something for anyone in the Arizona area that you're interested in. That's going to be a great event. But with FSW, they've had, of course, Karrion Kross, their former champion, Taya, who's a former champion, Willie Mack, who wrestles there occasionally, Chris Bay, who, is still wrestles there occasionally. And those are just, the people off the top of my head. And everyone who's on the West Coast has, made their way through FSW, and even some more people. Matt Hardy has wrestled there, and had stints there. Brian Cage, there's just much more. It's had a lengthy history. So as Brendan mentioned, there's a lot of great content on there, for $6.99. So even if you just buy it for 1 month, $6.99, that's still a lot. But again, that includes monthly events, and access to lots of content that continues to be added every single month.
Also, I wanted to mention that there is a show coming up in, I believe you said Robles was doing the Phoenix show?
No.
Okay. Well.
I'm trying to think. There's so many shows.
I put you on the spot there, but you got me thinking about the McAllen, Texas is lighting up again, including a return visit from Hijo del Santo on May 30th. There will, and then that's part of a dual show that's happening on both sides of the border, and they're doing there's a couple other shows that I was not able to find the posters for when I went to do my notes. I don't know if they got taken back down or what, but hopefully I'll have more on that in the upcoming weeks, because they're getting really busy in that area. And we were talking about Sam Adonis. And it turns out that Sam Adonis also put some information in the Master Republic's Eat Like a Luchador book. So we're going to give that a little reminder right there. Like, if you want to eat like a Rudo, you got...
Ooh, yes. Las obrudas de las chicas. If you want the ladies to love you, you may want to follow Sam Adonis's recipe in Eat Like a Luchador.
Yeah. But that is, I wanted to focus on this show this week, and then we're gonna, like I said, there are more shows coming up with, IWRG, with Mexico City going yellow. I may talk more about IWRG events, because they're putting big names in a lot of good, big places, but, this is still your chance, while I'm still thinning the herd a little bit, to come to me with your shows and talk to me about, show me your highlights, show me your luchadors. Maybe you've got a young up and coming luchador. I've seen a lot of these guys at indie shows where they've just got one guy in a mask somewhere. That's kind of how Fuego del Sol started. Look where he's at now. Bring me those guys. If you're a promoter, wrestler, super fan, or just really want me to talk about you on the air, send me your stuff. We'll have information at the end of the show on where to send stuff.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brendan, for the road back to shows and this week's Indie Roundup. I mean, we talked about this before, and we know some people. We got to look at some trademarking. That's really the future. I'm just saying. We know some people. We can probably submit something. Or Kevin, or Ruben, We'll let the office deal with that. Just putting that out there. Next up, we're going to kick it to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? TheChairShot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. TheChairShot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
As always, a very big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central, letting us know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Up next, Dusty, you're going to be talking to us about a big title change that happened in AAA this week.
Yeah, we had a match taped at Raya de Reyes, but it was held for a TV spot on I believe their Azteca programming, but I'm not certain. But anyway, it was held for their TV show, and it brought us a new set of trios champions with an interesting twist. Los Mercenarios, they had a unique lineup of Tejano, Rey Escorpion, and La Hydra, and they defeated Los Entes del Air, making La Hydra only the third woman to be a trios champion in AAA, and the first woman to be in a trio with two men in AAA as champions. So that was, an interesting spot. There was some, kind of questioning why she wasn't on the Triple Mania card, and now we know she was. They just held the match back. There was a very clean finish in the match with Tejano pinning Miss Disease. But then after the match, when they won, Taurus came out with his Latin American Championship to celebrate as the new Champions Club. And it was pretty awesome. Great spot. I highly recommend seeking it out if you look around. It's online, not in any official context, but it's easy to find. And then we also had news that dropped this week that on Tuesday, May the 18th, AAA will be holding a press conference about Triple Mania. And given what Brendan mentioned in the Road Back to Shows, it's very likely it will be held with an audience wherever it's held. We don't know yet, but very likely to be in the Mexico City area, very likely to have an audience. So, very exciting news. Hopefully we'll know more next week, obviously, after the press conference, and we'll bring you all that information when it comes out.
Well, while you're on a roll,
yeah,
why don't you go ahead and jump into this week's AEW?
Yeah, first up we had Dark Elevation. And our highlight matches. First, we had Thunder Rosa defeating Renee Michelle in a squash match. And later, she had a very fiery interview backstage where she named her new finisher the Peruvian Calavera. And she made it clear that she was coming for both Britt Baker when she became champion and Serena Deeb as for the NWA championship. So it's kind of interesting, very exciting, AEW is not afraid to put multiple belts on people, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with Thunder Rosa going forward. And then in our main event, in our highlight match of the show, Danny Limelight went up against Jon Moxley, and what was honestly a great matchup. Despite being part of the build for Moxley's IWGP United States title defense, Danny Limelight got in a surprising amount of offense, and it's obvious from this match that AEW is really high on Danny Limelight, and they're kind of grooming him to be a top-level guy. So it's exciting to see somebody like him in a main event with Jon Moxley, and exciting to see that they're using him properly, the steps of where he's going. And Moxley picked up the win with a paradigm shift off the middle turnbuckle. Great, exciting match. It shows how good you can look even when you lose. Like, Danny Limelight looked like a star in this match as much as Moxley did, and he was really the standout. I believe that's the first ever middle turnbuckle paradigm shift that's ever happened. So that was a notable spot. But then we had Tuesday Dark. And in a, fun lucha match, we had Jungle Boy defeating Marty Casals. We got another Marty match this week. We all remember Marty the Moth. This week he's in what was a really good match with Jungle Boy. This was Marty's first match since he lost to Cage. And his size against Jungle Boy's skill and speed was really interesting. I thought it made for a great pairing. Marty never got the chance to dominate in the match, but he looked great. He got in some great character work, especially great character work. But Jungle Boy was just dominant. Marty he had a bloody mouth, and it just made for an amazing visual when Jungle Boy was able to hit the snare trap and pick up the submission win. And it was mentioned on commentary, but Jungle Boy has evolved his style a lot lately to be less high-flying and more mat-based. And so it's interesting to see his kind of evolving style. And the mat-based style was definitely on display here against Marty. So I highly recommend this match. And then we had Wednesday Night Dynamite. First match, we had the Young Bucks versus SCU and a title versus breakup match. If the Bucks win, SCU must break up as a tag team forever. And if SCU wins, they become world champions again. And as you may recall me mentioning last week, I didn't see SCU picking up the win, and you should have listened to me because I was right. This match went hard, though. It was a lot of fun. The Bucks were just perfect in how obnoxious they were. They mocked Heartbreak Kid and Flair's emotional moment for their match at WrestleMania 24, the Love You, I'm Sorry. They wore white laces with their Bred Jordans. Nobody does that. That's like a weird, sneaker culture thing. It was interesting, but it really displayed the blood in the match. It was just the most consistent I felt the Bucks had been in a heel face or tweener face mold since they turned. This has been their most consistent character match, and it was fantastic. Christopher Daniels bled like a stuck pig in the whole match, but afterwards he was cold sprayed in the eyes by the Good Brothers and spiked by the aerosol can. And then the Young Bucks hit him with the BTE trigger, and Nick Jackson picked up the pin on Christopher Daniels, and it ended SCU's tag team career. So if you wanted to check that out, you should have seen it. And it's out there somewhere, I'm sure, but I highly recommend it.
Yeah, the majority of the matches on the official YouTube channel for AEW at this point.
Excellent.
Yeah, they knew that was going to be a big money draw.
It'll be kind of exciting. I guess Christopher Daniels is probably transitioning to more of a backstage role. He's been everywhere and done everything and worked for everybody. And so to have him in a backstage role would be very beneficial, I think, to AEW. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's hard to see silver lining in it because SCU's been around forever.
Yeah.
And
when they started this, we're going to break up when we lose match. I don't know why I was indulging in these fantasies, but I just had ideas of them taking any of these young tag teams that need that elevation and doing it with them. I mean, I don't understand this choice to do it with the Young Bucks who do not need the rub of breaking up SCU.
Yeah. But even then, like, SCU started to break up anyways because Scorpio Sky ended up now with Ethan Page. I feel like now one of them is going to end up with some other faction or start a faction at this point.
It is AEW, so yeah.
Yeah, but you're right as far as, like, I guess there was so much excitement when SCU was first with AEW and the fact that, you know, they were able to finally be showcased on this bigger platform and, you know, the fact that they never really got that title opportunity or one run with it before they broke up is kind of, you know, sad and disappointing for people who have watched them. And the fact that they've done this angle, though, means that they probably, you know, feel like they've accomplished what they plan to accomplish or want to accomplish and, you know, time to move on into some different directions, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I just, so for me, I came to terms that they weren't going to get the title when they announced that we're going to break up at the next time we lose thing, and they weren't champions. So I'm like, oh, they're going to probably get real close, and so I was thinking, this is like, you know, your Zbyszko moment, where you have Larry Zbyszko made his career off of beating Bruno Sammartino. Like yes, he had the talent, and Larry Zbyszko was one of the most annoying men on the mic. but Bookers wanted him because he was the guy that beat Bruno Sammartino. And I'm like, that's what I was hoping they were gonna do. Like, can you imagine, like, as much as everybody finds them annoying, like, if that had been the Acclaimed that broke up SCU, or, I mean...
Yes, because then, too, they could go about and saying, we were the team that broke up SCU. Like, I could have absolutely seen the Acclaim use that as, like, that pedestal to get to this next level.
Right.
But to do... Yeah, I absolutely see what you mean. Yeah, that... As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, my God, that's so much better than what they did.
Yeah. So that's where my disappointment came in. I was really hoping that because there's a bunch of guys, like, you know, if you wanted the babyface version, Top Flight would have been a good version to do this with. You know, there's a bunch of guys that they could have really elevated, and instead here we are with the Young Bucks as champions and a kind of breaking down tag team division. So, no.
Yeah. And also next up, and not chronologically, but just short, so I'm going to mention it, we had Thunder Rosa versus Jasmine Allure, and what was basically a squash match. But despite what Thunder Rosa said before, despite working the match dominantly, she didn't hit the Peruvian Calavera. She hit the Fire Thunder Driver for the win. Odd choice after the promo night before, but what can you do? But finally, on Dynamite this week, we had Pac versus Orange Cassidy and a world champion contendership match. With Pac being walked out, he came out to the ring with Penta and Phoenix. If you thought you were going to get to see him again, you were wrong. That was it. Like, they just walked out with him. But OC started the match by putting his sunglasses on Pac, and Pac broke the sunglasses. It was, I don't know, the whole start was weird. Maybe if it had played out fully, I would have liked it. But after some nice back and forth, Pac hit OC with a strong Liger bomb, and it really rattled his cage. He only got the 2 count. We went to the break, and when we came back from commercial, AEW appeared to have called an audible. They sent Don Callis out with Kenny. Kenny hits Pac with the belt, and it gets a double count out that sets up a triple threat. It was supposed to originally go to the 20-minute time limit, but due to the Liger bomb, they called the audible. So we got a stunted match. It wasn't as long, and we didn't get to see as much, so it felt all very disjointed, but with the injury, what can you do? But it sets up the triple threat between Pac, OC, and Kenny Omega for the AEW Championship at Double or Nothing on Sunday, May the 30th. Like I said, the ending was very jarring and weird, but, you know, I guess it was just their way to kind of get us to the desired result of a triple threat match for Double or Nothing. I personally was hoping to see some shenanigans from Best Friends and the rest of Death Triangle, the Lucha Bros. I wanted to see them involved in some way. I thought it would play into it, but that wasn't what we got. Hopefully we'll get to see that in the future, though. Once he recovers, you know, maybe we'll get to see some Lucha work into their matches. Hopefully. And then we also had news this week outside of Dynamite that Ricky Starks had fractured his neck in his match on April the 21st with Hangman Adam Page. It happened during that German suplex spot. It's believed at this time, though, he won't be needing any surgery, but he will be out of action for approximately 3 months. And AEW has promised, though, that we're going to see him on TV in the interim. And they did such a fantastic job with Britt Baker while she was injured that I have every confidence that they could kind of come up with something for him, and that it could be, much like Britt Baker, what launches him from being one of the guys to being the top guy, or one of the top guys, with the way these vice presidents are running things at AEW lately, but as top as you can get there. But yeah, so, you know, best wishes to him and for a quick healing and a return to the ring. We miss Starkey Baby, so hopefully he comes back soon.
Don't forget that you can find the results for all those AEW shows on luchacentral.com. So if you missed any of that, of course, listening to this show is one of the best ways to find out. But you can also go to luchacentral.com and get the results for all of the matches from those shows. Up next, we have just a little MLW news. Again, they had the season finale last week, so they are just now airing episodes of MLW Underground through July 10th, when they will reappear for the next season. So definitely check out MLW Underground on YouTube and Fubu Sports Bean as well. All of the channels that they play, you'll be able to find episodes of MLW Underground. But some interesting news came out this week, including a trademark that MLW has filed for a new name. Now, it's not specific to, you know, who they have filed it for, but many of us can give, you know, one or two guesses as to who it's for. But MLW recently filed a trademark for the name Cesar Duran. And it's been speculated that that is going to be the new name for Dario Cueto's character, because of course, trademark and copyright reasons and all that kind of stuff. It is very likely that MLW will not be able to use that name for his character in Azteca Underground. So it makes sense that that would be, you know, why a new name has been trademarked. But again, the trademark doesn't specifically state as far as who it's for. It just lists all, you know, the ways that it's going to be used. So we'll have to wait and see if that is going to be Dario's new name. But at the same time, it's going to be so hard to not use the name Dario Cueto. It just is. Yeah. He will always be Dario Cueto for many of us. But who knows? Maybe Cesar Duran will catch on. Maybe it's used for somebody else. But also, too, I mean, El Jefe just has a good ring to it. So even if the name doesn't catch on, El Jefe seems to have caught on pretty well. Also in MLW news, there was
lots of merch with El Jefe on it.
Right? Like,
yes.
They did. So Pro Wrestling Tees did release a Azteca Underground t-shirt. So you now can officially get your Azteca Underground shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com. So it has already begun. And actually, very interestingly enough, Court Bauer had a interview with Justin Barrazo on Sports Illustrated with Justin Brazo from Sports Illustrated, and he was able to talk about, really the whole interview revolved around, most of it did actually, around Azteca Underground. And, trying to get some tidbits as to, what the future looks like, how is it going to be facilitated, all of that. One of the questions he asks Court Bauer was, what will make Azteca Underground so different and distinct for MLW? And Court answers, quote, wrestling fans across the world love luchadors, but the genre hasn't been showcased in a consistent manner in America. Azteca Underground will provide that for the fans. Wrestling is also a super competitive landscape, and we'll have an opportunity to stand out with this project. So, already we've seen that within MLW with a really good Lucha Libre presence in general. They do have somewhat of that partnership with AAA, and, it just seems like they have a good understanding of what Lucha Libre can bring to the table. So I think that this is already in good hands. And also he talks about, planting the seeds for this for a while. Court has stated, we have some big plans and there's a lot of potential to grow. We have a long-term strategy and we've been planting seeds for the past 10 months. That's what we want, a slow burn that always delivers with our television and videos online. If you're that immersed in the product, we want to reward you. So it seems like this is much a part of a longer-term plan that they have with the expansion of MLW, but also providing a different type of product with Azteca Underground. We still don't know how it's going to be incorporated. That wasn't necessarily touched upon, in the interview. Justin Brazo did ask about the upcoming draft, in which Court Bauer mentioned that it's going to be very much leaning on their social media. That's where a lot of information is going to be shared. And when asked about if we're going to see draft picks from Azteca Underground, Court responded, not directly. The combat world of MLW will be very different from the world of Azteca Underground. So it does kind of allude to the possibility that it's going to be its own separate show, its own separate entity within MLW, with the possibility of crossover. I'm not quite sure, but the whole article is available on sportsillustrated.com. It's an interview with Justin Brazo and Court Bauer of MLW. So pretty interesting tidbits. And finally, the draft, as Court mentioned and was talked about in this interview, the open draft will start next week, May 20th. So that means they're going to be drafting wrestlers from all over the world to come to MLW. It's very, very exciting to see who could possibly come in. I mean, we've seen some WWE releases just in the past, few months. There's lots of amazing talent in the independent scene. And now that borders are opening up, international stars that could show up on MLW. So a lot of growth, a lot of great things that seem to be happening. Plans are happening. Seeds have been planted in MLW, which makes it very, very interesting to see what's going to happen on July 10th.
Super excited.
Yeah, the whole concept, as far as some of the information that Court Bauer talked about with Azteca Underground, one, shows that they've had this plan for a long time, and two, like that one sentence when he talked about how Azteca Underground is going to be different from MLW, to me, makes it seem like they're going to be two different entities.
Yeah, well, there's still the rumors swirling around of maybe two shows, so maybe one show is entirely focused on Lucha Libre, which, oh my goodness, that would make my life so much happier. More Lucha, yeah.
Especially if they can bring back, again, the elements of its own show. You're essentially bringing back Lucha Underground under, a new name, a new moniker, and actually under a wrestling company. I think that seems to be one of the biggest points of feedback for me that I've learned in listening to the interviews that Mass Mats and Mayhem have had with Conan and Vampiro. One of the biggest challenges was that Lucha Underground was a TV show, not a wrestling promotion.
Yep. Yeah, you had lots of there are lots and lots of stories. And as you mentioned, Mass Meth and Mayhem has talked a lot about it. They talked about it in Expo Lucha interviews. So there's lots of resources for hearing about it. But the struggle always, the central element of the story is always, you had two or three guys who had big ideas but didn't know a lot about wrestling, and you had a couple other guys who knew a lot about wrestling but didn't know how to make a TV show. And we got magic out of it, but at the same time, it also, you get a lot of butting heads and big personalities and conflict. So interesting stories for sure.
Well, stay tuned. We're definitely going to keep our eye on what happens in the open draft over the next few weeks and any other information that comes from MLW, especially on Azteca Underground. Up next, Brendan, do we have any Masked Republic updates?
We did the one thing we were going to do. We were talking about the Eat Like a Luchador book. I didn't have anything else big, although pre-orders did go up for Urban Aztec's Boba Fett bust. If you saw that after we talked about it on last week's show and you need to have it in your life, now's the time to pre-order it. And I guarantee, as awesome as that thing looks, he's going to sell out of it. So that's what I've got, really. But Ruben had a birthday this week, and Kevin's working, so I'm expecting we're going to get a bunch of information about things in the next little bit here. So definitely keep your ears tuned.
Definitely, and I have firsthand knowledge. Ruben, when I saw him in Vegas last week, showed me a few cool things that they're working on, just behind the scenes sneak peek stuff that they're working on as far as new merchandise. So I definitely, if you are a fan of collectibles and items, I can't say anything more, but it's going to be some really cool, it's kind of its own lucha libre spin on something very popular is what I'd like to think of it as. So make sure to stay tuned. And go ahead and buy something from Masked Republic so Ruben can get a new deck, Yeah. That's
buy some socks because, it's so cool that there's Lucha Libre socks in the world.
Yes. That is cool. And they're cool designs. Like, they're actually really cool socks. Yeah,
they're great socks.
Yes. Item of the week, the socks. We highly recommend them. Up next, we have This Week in NXT, and this was a stacked show. Starting off, the show opened up with Austin Theory versus Karrion Kross. This came from last week of Austin Theory just being kind of dumb. Like, I don't really know how any other ways to say this. But it was definitely a way for Karrion Kross to showcase his dominance. Austin Theory got a little bit of offense, especially outside of the ring. But really, and Johnny Gargano was there, couldn't do anything about it. I mean, really, just could not do anything about it. Karrion Kross is able to put in a pair of Saito suplexes, really to put an end to Austin Theory, and then followed up with the cross jacket for the victory. And then afterwards, Finn Balor appeared, lights off, lights coming back on, reappearing, and Finn Balor was standing behind Karrion Kross, very similar to their confrontations before. Finn mentioned that he did not want to wait in line, and they seem to agree that they're going to face each other, though we don't know when. But it looks like these two men will have another match sometime in the future. We had the NXT Women's Championship match, Raquel Gonzalez versus Mercedes Martinez. And this match was, the commentary team played it up, takeover worthy. I agree. I think if they did have this on a takeover, it could have been a lot more. So I'm a little disappointed they couldn't wait a little bit longer to build this up, but a great match. I loved Mercedes Martinez's approach with this to play more of the ground game in order to neutralize Raquel Gonzalez as far as her size and her strength. That happened a lot. They both took it outside of the ring, slamming each other into the barricade. Dakota Kai didn't get involved, which that was something you can kind of get used to seeing, but she didn't need to, because it was hard hitting, trading blows throughout the night, or throughout the match. There was a great counter, where Raquel tried the single arm power bomb, but Mercedes Martinez reversed it into a fisherman buster for a near fall. However, at the end, Mercedes got hit by a big boot, and that was when Raquel was able to hit the single arm power bomb for the win. So, still your NXT Women's Champion, Raquel Gonzalez. This was, again, a great match. I loved Mercedes' approach to this, and I think this was one of the toughest matches that Raquel has had, which again is why I'm a little disappointed it couldn't be on a takeover, but still, I definitely just a very good match, and one that both women should be proud of. An interesting thing before the match aired was that they announced Frankie Monet would be making her world premiere in 2 weeks, which, is still vague as far as world premiere, but it sounds like maybe she's going to be making her in-ring debut in 2 weeks. So, cannot wait to see Frankie Monet in the ring in NXT. Just also a side note, Isaiah Swerve Scott officially announced his new faction, Hit Row, in a pretty, fun promo. Top Dollar, Ashanti, the Adonis, and B-Fab is the name of the other members of the faction. And very, just suave, very, just like really cool, like badass cool faction that I think is great. Isaiah Swerve Scott is in, that he's leading, and I think they're going to be making some good waves in NXT. Then for the main event, the 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, Kushida versus Santos Escobar. This match was really good. It was solid. I enjoyed watching it. It started off with Legado Del Fantasma trying to interfere in the match, but MSK came out and all 4 of them were thrown out. So already they canceled each other out, and you knew you were just going to get a one-on-one between Kushida and Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar got the first pinfall with the Phantom Driver, and quickly afterwards, Kushida got in the second fall with an arm lock, and then from there, really back and forth. You got some suicide dives outside, and almost a roll up for the pin. But in the end, Kushida locked in the hoverboard lock for Santos to tap out and for Kushida to retain the Cruiserweight Championship. So that does leave a very big question now that it's been a 2 out of 3 falls, a clean finish. What does that mean for Santos Escobar and Legado del Fantasma? Is he going to be challenging for another belt? Is the focus going to move a little bit more to Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza on the tag team side? Does that mean maybe he'll move to Raw or SmackDown? I don't know.
Oh, God.
I know. But anyways, it was a very entertaining match. I really loved that double, it wasn't a crossbody. It was clothesline, double clothesline when they both hit each other, and you could just tell how exhausted they were, laying out in the ring. They really put on a very good match.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it to be critical, but I loved everything about it right up until the end. This time, though, it was because it wasn't the end that I wanted, not because the ending was bad.
No, it wasn't a bad ending, but yeah, it's not, for many Lucha Libre fans, not the, not the one that you expect. But I think this made Kushida look amazing.
Yeah.
Kushida, I feel, has found such a good rhythm now. I think he's found a good blend of character and wrestling ability. He's had a really good partner in Santos Escobar, and I hope he continues to have these successful matches. Now, I do think what Santos brought to the Cruiserweight Championship was flair, charisma, great promo work, character. And so that is something that it's easier when you're a Rudo, when you're a heel to do that. As a face, I think Kushida's going to have a little bit of an uphill battle with that. But I think he's finding his rhythm. I think they continuously have to put him up against really good, cruiserweights and really show kind of that definitive difference between him and whoever he's challenging. So, it'll be interesting. Already, Jordan Devlin, when Kushida first won the championship, already mentioned he was going to come after Kushida. So we could see Kushida versus Jordan Devlin very soon. There's lots of people in the NXT roster that could be coming up to challenge for the Cruiserweight Championship. So, it seems like it's a new chapter now in the Cruiserweight division. And that could be a good thing for Legado del Fantasma, or it could be kind of a scary thing if we don't continue to see them on television.
They're too hot of a product for them to not use them on television. But, then the scary thing would be if they start putting them in more, in spots where they can't do what they do well, so they really lose a lot of their shine. And then they would drop off of television. But that would more likely involve the three of them getting called up to a different show, because it's a lot harder for them to not shine in NXT.
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy this thing of contemplating the bad things.
Yes. And just a slip up, I mentioned as far as Kushida's first fall, I said arm lock, which was not the case. It was the hoverboard lock, that he got in for that first one. It happened pretty quickly after Santos's, first fall as well. So literally within a few minutes. Yeah. And then that hoverboard lock again for the second, fall. And, again, it's still, it fits in really well with Kushida's character and persona, I think. But, that personality and that side really came from Santos and Legado del Fantasma. So he may not always have that to help counter and help build him up. But you're absolutely right. I agree as far as, they are too much of a hot commodity to not be on television. It is one of the best factions, if not the best faction they have left on NXT right now. And they really have to have something well placed for them. Again, it does seem like Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde have this other program with MSK still building, and maybe that's where the focus is going to shift a little bit onto them. But hopefully that means they win the tag titles. I'm kind of doubtful on that. I feel like MSK is going to hold those titles for a bit. So that's what makes me worried that they might have a pretty high profile tag program, but is it going to lead to gold?
I don't see them winning that either, but it's so the story will be what they do after that, because it's a similar thing to what's happening with Raquel right now. You need credible threats to these titles. And so because of the just amount of energy swirling around Legado del Fantasma, they're already primed for that. So they're going to be credible going up against MSK, and then you've got the feud building as it is. So that's going to put MSK in a reliable, dependable champion sort of position, and we'll have to see what they do with Legado after that. That's the area that's in question, because I don't know. It's harder to pick. But I mean, they broke up one of the biggest, most popular factions when they did. I already forgot the name of it, but when they did the breakup at the top of the card with Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, the Undisputed Era.
There we go, the UE. So there's room now. There's room for another major faction to move up into that. Mm-hmm. So who knows? Maybe that is where they plan on bringing them.
And so that is this week in NXT. Also, a special note, NXT did announce that they are bringing back In Your House, the next NXT special on June 13th. So we will have a return of In Your House. I'm so glad they brought it back. I think the set is one of my favorites, all of it. So they are leading to a takeover in a few weeks, so that leads to a lot of speculation as to what we're going to see on that card. I have a feeling maybe they're really building up, going back to the women's side, Raquel Gonzalez maybe versus Frankie Monet. I just feel like her name is floating in that, or at least that's what they're shooting for sometime in the future. Who knows? Zoe Stark is going to be facing Toni Storm next week, so that could also, Zoe Stark's name has been thrown out there, and she's building her portfolio to one day make a case to face Raquel Gonzalez as well. So, again, just really solid, good wrestling this week on NXT. Nothing to it but to do it. All right. So, again, the results for NXT are available on luchacentral.com. You know what else you can find on luchacentral.com? This week in Lucha Libre history. So, Dusty, go ahead and take it away.
That's right. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for this day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, match of the day, amazing videos, and even more. And it's all about Lucha Libre. And that's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week we chose May the 14th, 1993, when Heavy Metal defeated Io Del Santo for his first and only run with the WWA welterweight title at a AAA show held at the Gimnasio Olímpico Juan de la Barrera in Mexico City. And like I said, this would be the only occasion on which Heavy Metal won the title and held the title, but it really did a lot for the feud between Heavy Metal and Io Del Santo and AAA as they were starting up. Heavy Metal later successfully defended the title against Rey Mysterio and Io Del Santo before dropping the title then to Io Del Santo on April the 13th, 1993. This match, it's exciting. Like, Heavy Metal enters to It's So Easy by Guns N' Roses, but Io Del Santo enters to 1975's disco pop hit Sky High by Jigsaw. And it's easy to see why the crowd was so excited about Heavy Metal in this match, despite Io Del Santo coming out to the ring with Fuerza Guerrera and Eddie Guerrero. Like, it was, you could definitely see the new guard versus the old guard at display in this match. What did you think, Brendan?
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you already caught a couple things that I was. So you had that vibe of the new guard versus the old guard, but the other thing I noticed was so Eddie Guerrero was still Mexican national babyface at this point. AAA, for those who aren't aware, is only about a year old at this point, so they're still finding their identity and all of that. And that's one of the things I noticed right away is that Heavy Metal, who's a member of the Casas family, and then went heel for this promotion, kind of represented American culture with this heavy metal gimmick, and they wanted what eventually we got out of Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr. They wanted this, I'm an American and you should dislike me because I represent all of the things from America, and you had Santo representing Mexican tradition. Like, even the girls that they came out with, because in AAA they had girls escort the wrestlers to the ring at this time. You had Heavy Metal coming out with girls in skin-tight bodysuits and stiletto heels, looking very like they walked right out of an MTV video. And Santo came out with women in disco dresses. Like, he was really, he was really stuck in the 70s.
Yeah, it felt out of touch to a degree.
Yeah, I could see what you mean. Now, Brendan hit the nail on the head as far as what I loved the most. It was very clear cut as far as Rudo versus Technical. The entrances were awesome. Mm-hmm. And what caught me was, and we all talked about this off air, was the pacing of the match and the length. You had to have patience in this match. Yeah. Because it started off pretty slow with lots of holds and locks. And commentary really doing a great job of just putting over both men, but you had to be patient as far as, okay, especially if you enjoy more of the faster pace, more of, back and forth, more of the high flying, that ended up more after, I believe, the first fall, first or second fall.
It started really ramping up right after the first.
Yeah. So you and it took a while to get to the first fall. So I think though too, it was building up the story, really building up the fan response to it, because too it was very clear cut that fans were very much behind Hijo, but I think there was still also people who really did like heavy metal, and it was kind of that too beginning of it's cool to like the bad guy, and so. I just think that was, you have to have the patience to have the appreciation for like what they were trying to tell in the ring. But the entrances, honestly, were probably one of the most favorite ones I've seen in quite some time, because it was very clear cut. It was, very showy. But I liked it, and especially for 1993. I mean, that's kind of in line with what you were seeing in the States as well. So, yep. I mean, maybe the 75 music was out of date, but the concept itself was very much in alignment with wrestling at the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was really not feeling out of date as much as it was kind of touching on his more traditional character, yes. If that makes sense. Because we still have people who come out, like Walter comes out to classical music right now. So it doesn't, just because it's not from the hip modern genre doesn't mean it doesn't tell something with the story. And I liked it that way. It is also interesting to note that it was 2 out of 3. AAA eventually did that format for the most part. Like it's a special match if it's 2 out of 3 falls now. But 2 out of 3 falls was very traditional in Mexico, especially for singles titles. And so they were still kind of experimenting with that. And then you kept mentioning that people liked, both of you actually, that people liked heavy metal. That was one of the interesting things I was reading on this feud. When he loses the title again, that actually was part of his babyface turn.
Yeah. And
he became a hero to the people by graciously losing at that point. So it's very interesting to see the roots of that, and man, I don't remember 93 looking so awesome. Like that was
right.
Yeah, you definitely have a good appreciation for it through this match. In the lens of this match, it's like rose-colored glasses. Great. Well, that is this week in Lucha Libre history. As Dusty mentioned, don't forget to check out this day in Lucha Libre history at luchacentral.com. But you know what? There's so much more on luchacentral.com. Brendan, why don't you tell our listeners more?
All right. Well, if you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's really, really, really time to do it. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And this is my favorite. It's free. Can't beat that price. Free. Just go to luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Yes, indeed. Remind me, Brendan, do we have any CMLL news?
I didn't actually have anything that we didn't already talk about. They're selling tickets to events now. The iPay-per-view card is up. The price still hasn't dropped yet, so if you're on the fence about it, it's still only going to be like $8 American if you buy it right now. I mean, that's not even a cup of coffee. You can buy one less cup of Starbucks this week, and you can watch a CMLL pay-per-view with a full-on tournament. Like, can't beat that. But that's all I got right now. We're in the next couple of weeks, we're probably going to have some big news coming.
All right. So stay tuned to the show where we're going to have continued updates on what we find out on CMLL. Up next, Dusty's going to take us through this week in WWE.
Yeah, well, first up, we had Friday Night SmackDown, and we had what was announced to be a match between Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler, and Dolph comes out and he cuts a promo on Dominic about how he was nothing but Rey Mysterio's kid and didn't belong in the ring with somebody like Dolph Ziggler. So, of course, Dominic takes over for Rey as the competitor in the match. Dominic has some new gear. It's somewhere between Psychosis and Seth Rollins, but it's really cool. And it looks amazing on his size and his style. Like, it's just a really cool upgrade to his look. And he won very quickly in this match. He won easily with a small package and what was actually more of an angle than a match. But it sets up their match this weekend at WWE WrestleMania Backlash. And so that seemed to be what the most important thing was. There's some rumors, that they may be putting the titles on the Mysterios just to have them quickly lose, to perhaps the Usos. But we'll see what happens. That's just the rumor mill, and, thought I'd pass that along. And then we had Monday Night Raw. And Humberto Carrillo was injured in his match with Sheamus. They're continuing the feud, but after a sunset flip spot off the apron ended with Sheamus falling on Humberto's knee, it ended the match. The referee declared Sheamus the winner. It was later said that Humberto was okay and he was actually cleared to wrestle the next day. And so it was nothing big, just kind of a scary moment. So that was some good news. And then we also had a backstage segment between Garza and Gulak where they were kind of fighting. And Garza threatened to shove a rose down Gulak's throat this time. They didn't have the match on Raw. They didn't have it on Main Event. So perhaps somehow it's building to a match this weekend at WWE WrestleMania Backlash. But who knows? Like,
Hello,
WWE,
pre-show.
so probably
Yes.
not. Yeah. But, I mean, even the pre-show is better than nothing, I guess. And,
Yeah.
It's still better than nothing. I'll watch it. I mean,
Yeah,
especially after the Rose thing, but
they could steal the show, so it'll be interesting. I kind of like the dynamic between Garza and Gulak. Like, it's an interesting dynamic, and their styles mesh interestingly together. So I'm excited for this pairing and this feud. I want to see where it goes, despite how silly the Rose thing is, and the visuals it gave us last week. I find the pairing interesting, so I'm excited to see what comes of this.
it's not silly. It's awesome.
Well, now it's better. Like, they were
Yeah.
able to just do this. Yeah, they fixed it a bit. That's good.
I actually listened to a clip of Conan watching that, and he thought it was tremendous too, because Garza called his spot, then he did his spot. Like, I mean, like this is great. That's what you do. He said he was going to do it, and he did it. It's hilarious and badass at the same time, and I'm so like, it's all the things you want out of a good wrestling spot. I'm like, so if Conan likes it, I feel I'm in good company, like in this Rose stuff. Just saying.
I enjoyed it. I just thought it was it was more fun than serious, but it was, or at least for me, but it was hilarious too. Like I love the juxtaposition of their styles. Drew Gulak is somebody that in character takes himself very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And, Angel Garza in character is somebody that considers himself above all that because he's a ladies' man. And it's just perfect. Like I love the whole thing. Like you say, he made a threat, then he followed through. It was just fun. But I'm sure that it made Vince laugh too, so that's what's perfect. Is that anything he can do to catch his attention is ideal, and season that brass ring.
Yeah, I can just see Vince laugh.
Are you not entertained?
Well, at least I am.
I am too.
All right. Sorry, my notes is just taking a second for to come back up. It's just this silence. Up next, though, we do have a brief update on Ring of Honor, specifically this week's Women's Wrestling Wednesdays.
Well, before we get to the fun of Women's Wrestling Wednesdays, I have to give my sad news that LFI has been suspended for an entire month.
For a whole month.
Just most likely it's storyline reasons because they aren't going to be at tapings. But yeah, they've been just a little too ungovernable, and so they're allegedly suspended. Maybe they'll just show up whenever they feel like it anyway. That'd be nice.
Yeah, because they're ungovernable.
But,
yeah.
You can't tell them what
yeah, it's pretty much in the title.
Yeah.
Yep, it's what it says on the box. That's what it says. But so there's the sad news. They theoretically are not going to be on television for the next month. Obviously, I will still be watching to keep track of what's going on. So if they do make a surprise appearance, I will let you know. But yes, this week we had Lucha representation in Women of Honor Wednesday, which was a match featuring Miranda Alizé versus Trish Adora. And Miranda Alizé, as we've mentioned a few times on the show, is in fact Lucha trained. I'm going to go over to ROH's webpage here. Let's see. So she competed in Japan, but they called her the Lucha Baddie. She wears a Lucha mask to the ring. Mm-hmm. She's worked in Mexico extensively. And it shows in her style. And so you had her going up against I just said the name.
Trish Adora.
There we go, Trish Adora. I've only seen little highlights here and there because there's so much wrestling again this week.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was a really fun match. The ROH has said that both of them were presented with a golden ticket at the end of the match, putting them in the women's tournament. So we'll see more of Miranda Alizé in her lucha style. She may be one of the only lucha representatives in the ROH brand for a while because of border issues. But even if that's true, I'm not mad because that's good representation. But so we'll be seeing both of them. Miranda did get the win in this match, but both of them got the golden ticket. So it's on YouTube on ROH's channel. It is well worth a watch. Both these women are phenomenal athletes, and they have a passion that shows through in the highlights I've seen of this match.
Yeah. The full match is on YouTube. Again, Women Division Wednesdays is going to keep on happening every Wednesday. They're building up towards the women's tournament. So I love how they're utilizing this particular showcase as a way to introduce fans to new women within Ring of Honor, and also building up the tournament brackets. So again, I what Brendan said as far as watching the match, and continuing to watch Women Division Wednesdays on Ring of Honor's YouTube page. Last but not least, we have Impact Wrestling. They do have their Impact Plus event Under Siege happening this Saturday, May 15th. And as far as this week in Impact Wrestling, a few pretty good tidbits and matches. One is a X Division scramble that happened. It was Petey Williams versus El Fantasma versus Rohit Raju versus Ace Austin versus AC Romero versus TJP. And that match was to determine the number one contender who would face Josh Alexander for the X Division Championship match this Saturday. If it's the one thing you see, which you probably have already seen, it's been making the rounds instantly on social media, and that's from El Fantasma, who delivered a top rope Death Valley driver on Ace Austin to Petey Williams, Rohit Raju, and AC Romero while he was holding on to TJP. So that in and of itself is crazy and like the exact definition of the X Division. And no surprise, El Fantasma won, and he was able to pin, I believe, Petey Williams, and is now going to be facing Josh Alexander for the X Division Championship this Saturday. Now, it's very interesting to think if there is this case where El Fantasma wins, because right now the Impact World Championship is with Kenny Omega. Your tag titles are on FinJuice. So the fact that there's a possibility that your X Division Championship could go to someone else who is part of New Japan, you know, my gut says no. I think it's going to be a fantastic match, but it seems like Impact Wrestling is just like willing to give their titles away to other people in other promotions. So, they could actually be building to an interesting thing, because you could, if they lose all of these titles, they could wind up going and having a moment where they have to like rally as a company to get that back, and that thereby making all of these other companies the heels. I'm using air quotes for those of you that can't see. This is not a video version, so we can... yeah. You guys get it. You understand.
Yeah. But, so they could do something interesting with that. Will they? I know Impact Wrestling has been very hit or miss, so they could do something that cool, or they could just kind of play around a little bit. Who knows? Actually always has me more curious to see their pay-per-views, because I never know. Like, yes. I just don't know what
the X Division, like, this match is going to be fantastic. Like, already to see the differences between El Fantasma and Josh Alexander already is like, I'm in. I'm interested to see.
That's the one I'm most excited for, too. Yeah, like, that is, so good.
And I do want to squeeze in real fast, for those who are less familiar with this situation, El Fantasma is a Canadian man who wears funny sunglasses. He is not related in any way to Santos Escobar or Fantasma.
Yes.
I have point blank asked him if he's been lucha trained and not gotten a direct answer, so I don't know.
And the reason I mentioned this spot is because it was a very awesome spot, and you'll just see it all over the internet. So I mean, yes. And speaking of Canadian, yes, he did hit a Canadian destroyer on a fellow Canadian, Petey Williams. So I don't think that's ironic. That's just like
Canadian on
Canadian violence. And Canadians are supposed to be so peaceful, but also very fitting. I think, hitting a Canadian destroyer, like a Canadian hitting a Canadian destroyer on another Canadian, like, totally understand. Does it make it more impactful? Like, does it hurt more because it's like the extra Canada in it?
I don't.
I don't know. It's just me on my random ramblings. My random
I need some maple
scientific.
syrup.
That's what we need. That's what we need. The Canada, God bless. Also this week on Impact, we did have, I was trying to scroll through my notes. I got so distracted by this Canadian on Canadian on Canadian, like it just got to me. Yes. Willie Mack versus Sam Beal. This was a fairly quick match. Sam Beal, did have some really, good spots, really like tremendous effort. But, you can't beat Willie Mack. He used, I believe it was a crossbody. But just flew over the top rope to get to Sam Beal for a pin. However, it was what happened after the match which was more interesting. And W. Morrissey came out. He threw Sam Beal out of the ring and focused on Willie Mack. He decked him with a clothesline and then, of course, the big boot. So that is a pretense to the match that we're going to see this weekend at Under Siege, Willie Mack versus W. Morrissey. Also happening this weekend at Under Siege, Brian Myers is going to be facing Black Taurus. Brian Myers did face Crazy Steve this week, in which he got the win. However, Black Taurus came out, beat him up, laid the death card. So I don't know if Brian Myers is going to die on Saturday. That's what I feel like Black Taurus is saying and Decay is saying with that move. And then, of course, we do have the 6-way number 1 contenders match. Chris Sabin versus Chris Bay versus Sami Callihan versus Matt Cardona versus Trey Miguel versus Moose to determine the number 1 contender for the Impact World Championship. The winner of that match will face Kenny Omega at a later date, very likely Slammiversary, but it has not been announced yet. So, Under Siege happening this Saturday. Keep an eye out to see what happens with Impact, and it's just interesting, as we talked about, the direction that Impact is going in, and the partnerships that they've had, of course, with New Japan, seeing Diana Purrazzo at Rey de Reyes a few weeks ago, and, the implications there. We still haven't heard, what may be next, but it could that says Triple Mania all over it. So who knows? To credit Impact Wrestling, they are not afraid to work with other companies and not afraid to showcase talent on their show. So it does make it pretty interesting to watch every week, and we will see what happens. And that is it for this week's episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And you can also follow Lucha Central on social media. At Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at LuchaCentralCom on Twitter. You gotta check out the YouTube page. I always tell you, because there's so much cool content on that YouTube page, exclusive interviews that you can't find anywhere else, matches, and much, much more. If you got some time, you could definitely go down a rabbit hole on the Lucha Central YouTube page. So go ahead and do it. While you're doing all that too, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy, and I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can they find you?
I am 321. That's the numbers 3, 2, and 1. T-shirt guy. So 321 T-shirt guy. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. And I'm on the Twitters.
Great. And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the hashtag Miranda on Instagram and Facebook. And let us know your thoughts on the show. Leave us your reviews, your comments. If you are an independent wrestler or promotion or fan and you would like a match or a promotion or a wrestler really to be featured on a future edition of the Indie Roundup, make sure you message us. We all support independent wrestling, so we'd love to showcase all of the promotions and talent out there that we can, especially before things start to pick up. I feel like it's going to be a very busy summer in Lucha Libre, so we want to take the time as much as possible to showcase independent wrestling. And if you are listening to this through maybe your favorite podcast streaming platform like Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Speaker, Podbay, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe, hit the notification button so that way you get notified every time a new episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast drops. You can leave us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts, what you like, what you don't like. I mean, we got some tough skin. We've been doing this now for over a year, so we got some thick skin. We can handle it. But we'd love to get your ideas and thoughts on segments, on topics, on things you'd like for us to talk about, interesting questions, history in Lucha Libre, whatever it is, go ahead and let us know. So for Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will be back next week.